Hi, Dr. Paul Hader here. Well, how does it feel great even with a natural disaster? We just had a Category 5 hurricane run over us here in Puerto Rico. And we are doing okay. We're moving forward. And some people are doing better than others. I have to say that. It's most important that we do make some plans ahead of time. And most of all, I see a lot of things going on with people's it's a lot of a head game, a lot of it. And a lot of people get frustrated, a lot of people get angry, and um, that doesn't help anything. I was sitting in line, we have 7 or 8 hour waits for get gasoline, and sitting in line, and we're changing off with my wife, and a kid in front of us is getting extremely agitated and upset, and that's where having a routine which doesn't change no matter what, even in the middle of a disaster, if it's a hurricane or earthquake or whatever, to put in the meditation time, to put in the contemplation time, to have the time for prayer, to have the time to exercise, and it's don't change your eating habits. It's important to eat good food, especially then, because I see a whole bunch of people. I was in the gas station. Here's this man. He's buying all these cakes. You know what I mean? It was like hooked on sugar, and that will just make him feel sad and depressed in the end. It's really important that we eat good food and we start putting food aside before we have the natural disaster, which is super important. You know. In some cultures it's called tithing, and we were supposed to put aside food. And in fact, back in ancient Egypt and different other cultures, they would actually have these huge silos for the whole country, and they would put all this food there, and just in case of some kind of famine or something else happening. And I think it's really important that we do a lot of prayer during this time and have great faith that everything will be fine and we'll get through this. When we give up faith, that's when all hope is lost. Especially some people, and just about every natural disaster, including this one, that they committed suicide because they lost all hope. But it takes great resilience to overcome something like this and any kind of natural disaster, whether it be a tsunami, an earthquake like in Mexico, or whether it be a hurricane like this. And I see that they're only going to become more frequent, so we need to take action. Action is key also, and action means also to do the meditation, to do the contemplation, to do the prayers, to do the chanting, and that keeps us on a path of peace inside. And how can we survive and even feel good if we don't have that great peace inside? And I see a lot of people in huge amount of fear. What does that do for anybody? In fact, I was talking to a person the other day, and her daughter is in another country, and they had some kind of terrorist attack, and she was, "Oh, I'm afraid, I'm afraid." And I said, "Well, is that really doing any good whatsoever? It's only making you upset." And in Chinese medicine, fear causes kidney disease and liver disease. So that's really only causing one thing to happen, causing bad things to happen for yourself. It doesn't help anything. Instead of having fear, we should be powerful and fearless. And fearless. And that's one of the things I affirm every single morning is I am powerful, I am fearless. I am powerful, I am fearless. I am powerful, I am fearless. To be in fear, it doesn't change a thing whatsoever in the way of what's going on around us, and it also doesn't change what's happening as far as our life and the fact that whether we have food or not have food. Here we have long lines to get into the stores right now to get food. Also, a lot of places nobody has water. In some places people don't have water, and we're actually taking water and food to some of these little towns, my wife and I, to give to them, because we do have a mega filter which sits on the counter, and we can take about any kind of water and filter it and make it into great water. And we also have stocked up on food, so we have things to share with other people, and it's a little bit anyway. And yeah, not like we have mega stocks or anything, but we believe that sharing is super important. And and that's what it really takes. It takes a community to get through something like this. And when community comes together, one thing I have to say is it has done is people who are not watching TV, which is good. And they come out in the evening and everybody talks with each other, and they actually know their neighbors upstairs, their neighbor downstairs, the neighbors beside them. And so there's a communication going, which had never happened before, I think, in fact, in a long, long time, because everybody's so connected to these handheld things. You know, we really don't even have much in the way of cell service. In fact, I have to go around looking for cell service in the car to find the cell service, to even to contact, you know, relatives and things like that. So we're back into the simplicity. Simplicity is the name of the game. And we do clothes washing early in the morning, my wife and I, and we wash the clothes by hand, and we hang them out on the line, and we go back to a simpler way of time. And a way of doing things. So there's something peaceful about it, though. You know, I think my meditations have become even more profound and deeper because there's not so much noise going on, and eventually all the power plants will go kind of silent because people don't have the fuel. So we have to go back to a simpler way of life, a simpler way of living according to the circadian rhythms, because when it gets dark, you basically you have to use candles or a flashlight, or you go to sleep. And then when it gets light, you get up. So you have to work in accordance with the nature again, instead of working out of accordance with the nature, which is causing all kinds of problems with lots of people who have, you know, sleep deprivation and things like that. And it's also eating right. A lot of times, a lot of people, you know, like I said, we're buying all the sweets, and I have to say, just before the hurricane came, I was looking in the store, and all these people were buying chocolate and sugar and all this stuff. It was like, whoa. Just the opposite. All that stuff will make you hyper and cause anxiety, whereas eating, you know, rice, beans, and greens, and things like that will actually keep you more stable as far as your mind goes, and keep you out of fear also, for, you know, in a positive way also. See, because you have the right ingredients to make the mind work. And so it's really important that all these things interact together. We have to make plans ahead of time, you know, putting food away, putting together water filters that you might have, you know, might need, have contingency plans for what might happen, all kinds of things. So how am I going to generate power if I don't have power? You know, one of our relatives also, he had gotten together a couple little solar panels, and he actually was able to have a fan going at night so he can sleep, and also have some lights during the day. So that's another thing that people were doing. So there's a lot of different things, but you have to do these things ahead of time and have some forethought. And a lot of people go, oh, you don't need to do that. That's never going to happen. I tell you, those are the same people who were saying, I'm glad you did this later on, because, you know, they're the first ones in line if you have water, or if you have food, or if you have power, or anything else. Yeah, and that's not to say, you know, anything bad towards them at all, but they're all the people who scoff are always the ones who are always glad that you did what you actually did. So it's important to take the time to actually have a game plan. You know, a game plan is really good, really important. And to think about other people. It's you could cocoon yourself in your own house and have the power and the water and the food and all this stuff, but what good is that if you don't get out and help other people who are, in need? And some of the little communities in Puerto Rico have not even been heard from yet, and that's very difficult for a lot of people who have relatives way up in the mountains or something like that, and they haven't heard from these people. It's slowly we're getting to some help, but it's really been a trickle. I hope it kind of picks up. It's going to be months before we get power back here. There's trees down everywhere, and it just, the greenery of Puerto Rico is totally gone, and everything has been destroyed. Even my whole garden is basically only 3 or 4 trees survive. So starting over, it's a great thing in a way to start over. Hey, actually I have a couple patches of spinach which survived, and we've been using that. And so you never know what's going to survive, what's going to survive. And so you have to make contingency plans. And so you have to write it all down. Know what you got going and how you can help others in the meantime. And I think that's really important. I think that's a key to keeping ourselves from going crazy also and losing our ability to deal with life. I know one particular person, they're not too far out of San Juan, and that particular person was saying, I can't deal with this anymore. No power, no water, and blah, blah, blah. And they're letting their mind kind of get to them, and the meditation would really help. We had no power, we had no water there for a while, but we went forward anyway, and we made it happen accordingly. So it's really important that we learn to control this. This is the most important thing to control. If we go crazy, it's an uphill battle from there. And it's also important to have great faith and have great gratitude for every day, and get up in the morning and say prayers. And I do a huge amount of affirmations for myself also, and affirmations are powerful. Even Edgar Cayce talked about affirmations as being, the God part of us talking to God, and we're affirming who we are deep down inside. And I think that's really great, and it's really important that we allow ourselves to see the magnificence of who we are, even during the hard times. And we can do that, absolutely. And we, as a people here in Puerto Rico, shall overcome. I know that without a doubt. With or without help, we'd like to help from outside, but it's slow in coming, but we're trying to do our part and make a difference. And I hope you'll join us if you want to make a difference in some of the little towns. We're actually, like I said, we're getting together food and taking them up to some of the people there who don't have food or water. I know one particular family that has 3 autistic children. They have no food, no water, no electricity, no nothing. And so we're going to start making trips here to get out there, and we've already been taking care of the neighbors and stuff, and today I'm making a huge batch of soup to take to everybody. So we do what we can do. So if you care to make a donation, I really appreciate that. Down below is a donation link, as always, and if you care to subscribe, I really appreciate that too. And if you want to get a hold of me, the best way right now is through email, because pretty hard to get a hold of me any other way, because there's hardly any cell service. But I go check my email, I run down the street with my hotspot from AT&T and check my email. So I appreciate you in all kinds of ways, and remember, I love you.